Alright, Lanta, so it was announced this morning that 1000-year Blood War BYAKUYA and Nödt are returning. It's their first time returning since the initial introduction back in the middle of November, and the banner itself will be here tomorrow on the 23rd, lasting until the 2nd of April. Now, due to the timing of this banner, it means it's definitely worthwhile waiting to see what end of month is going to be first and foremost before you even decide to summon on this banner. But in my opinion, this banner really isn't worth summoning on. If you actually have a look at the filler pool, they do feature some of the rarer 1000-year Blood War characters. It's the first time we've seen some of these characters even summonable in quite a few years, which is what I do like about the banner. But of course, the main selling point of any banner is going to be the main headliners, that being Nödt and BYAKUYA. Now, it's to no one's surprise that these characters, remember, were mid-month characters, and for the most part, they play like mid-month characters. Nödt is definitely an exception. He's actually a really good character even for end-of-month standards, but he definitely does have his faults, as does BYAKUYA. Now, this banner, when it was first introduced, was really only worth summoning on due to the current step-up format that we did have, where you were guaranteed a character every 3 steps, and then the 10th step, you were guaranteed either Nödt or BYAKUYA. So at most, you would spend 2,000 orbs for a new character. And due to that reason, it was somewhat worth summoning on if you like the characters. And unfortunately, because remember, reruns don't get the Zenith summon step up, it doesn't get the Crown step up summons. It's just a normal banner. You theoretically, as bad as it sounds, could go to step 25 with no Nödt or BYAKUYA. So in my opinion, no, this is a very easy skip. At most, if you really want to, do the first 2 steps, right? The 2 discounts. That's about it. Obviously, if BYAKUYA and Nödt are your favorite characters, you want to get them 5/5, you just want to get the 1 copy of them, then by all means, do what you gotta do, right? As always, summon for your favorite characters. But in terms of like a meta standpoint, or, you know, let's say you're new to the game, wondering if these characters are good, worthwhile, your orbs are definitely better spent elsewhere. Potentially, again, this upcoming end of month banner. Because if we do actually have a close look at the characters themselves, Nödt is a mind no affiliation killer. Now, he could have stood out to a certain extent in the mind attribute if he didn't really have much competition in the killer aspect. But as far as mind characters do go, literally the 2 best characters in this attribute have no affiliation killer. So he's competing with some of the best characters in the attribute in the game, which in a way makes him feel a lot like Luster, especially if you own those characters like 8th Anniversary White and 1000-year Blood War Yuha Bark. Now, granted, Nödt is a range character. The previous 2 characters I just mentioned are melee characters. So at least when it comes to Guild Quest content, you know, they aren't really competing with each other in that particular aspect. But even so, when it comes to range no affiliation killers, there are better options out there. Having said that though, Nödt still does make for a really good character. He was able, and I've shown that on the channel, that he can beat the Nightmare GQ at 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5. He has a really good damage output with Frenzy +2. When you inflict a stat element, which you can apply both weakening and slow, you get an 80% SP boost. Alongside that, you also do 80% more damage to the enemies you do inflict with stat elements. And since you also inflict weakening, you're doing 50% more damage. He has some good survivability given the fact that he does have multi-barrier, and he also does get more recharge at full stamina. And he also has a 14% recharge salt rate, so his strong attacks are coming back significantly faster compared to some of the other characters in the game. It's just that the really only thing that brings him down is more so his strong attack kit, with no increased chance to inflict stat elements and an SA2 that can't inflict stat elements. You're not guaranteed to get the SP boost anytime you use a strong attack. That definitely can slow down your runs a tad bit. His strong attack kit isn't really the greatest. More so the SA1, which you are very reliant on, is a pushback attack. It's still a good one, and if you position it correctly against a boss, you can actually do a lot of damage. So in my opinion, he's just an overall good character. Nothing super crazy, but definitely a good character nonetheless. I wouldn't say he's bad. He can do a lot if you have him. And visually, this character looks great. I mean, he's one of the best visually looking characters in the entire game, in my opinion. Killer did a great job with this character, and he is one of my favorite characters in the game. But having said that, when I use him, it's more so because I want to use him, not because he's the best in what he wants to do, if that kind of makes sense. Sure, you can use him in stuff, and I got my use out of him in Limit Breaker, in Guild Quest, for example. I used him in IT, but I'll be lying if I said when I was playing with him, I'd be like, oh, you know what, maybe this was better if I used other characters that I have that are just naturally better than him. So yeah, overall, Nödt, great character in my opinion, but by no means the best character in the game. And that's something you need to understand when pulling for him. But if you do pull for him and you do get him, you'll definitely have a lot of fun with him. As for BYAKUYA, he's more of a traditional Guild Quest character that wants to be used in strictly Guild Quests. In this case, the melee no affiliation Guild Quest. The reason for that is because he himself is a team booster. By using the SA2, you're going to boost your team's stats by 43%, more specifically though the attack, focus, and defense. In terms of damage output, the character itself has a good one, Frenzy +2. When at full stamina, you have a 40% additional strong attack damage buff. At full stamina, from his Sultry, he also does offer 30% more damage. And when you do apply weakening, you do 40% more damage to those weakened enemies, overall dealing 90% more damage. He has a good strong attack kit. He has a lot going for him to a certain extent. The only bad thing about him is that he doesn't have Havoc, so if you actually manually play him with the character, character, you definitely are going to notice the lack of range when compared to other end of month characters, which is what we usually play with. So for manual play, that's really the only bad thing about him, is that he does lack havoc. At the same time, he is all around being at full stamina, since 70% of his damage comes from that. But you have no way to heal yourself back up to full stamina if you take damage. There's no way stopping you from taking damage, besides in guild quest, where he does have start barrier. Now, start barrier unfortunately only lasts around 20 or so seconds. So usually, depending on how slow the run's going, by the time you get to the 5th boss in a guild quest run, the character would have lost his barriers and maybe at this point would have taken damage, losing all that full stamina damage. He has gotten better to a certain extent, mainly because he does pair well with 1000-year Blood War Yuha. Yuha is the main go-to character for that particular guild quest, and due to his crowd control vortex, it does allow Byakuya to have a lot more usability, given that he can actually reliably stay at full stamina when he's doing his max damage output. Again, Byakuya is a character that you might be able to want to use in normal PvE content, and by all purposes you can, but he's strictly meant to be used in guild quest, the immediately no affiliation guild quest, as your team booster. If you have access to someone like Safui Soifon, she's definitely the more reliable character to use, especially considering the fact that she is a no attack damage character. And if you have her, you definitely don't need Byakuya, but if you do lack Soifon and you are rarely ever going to ever summon on a Safui banner, well, Byakuya is your next best team booster. Having a look at the other characters in the banner though, first up we have Gremmy, a mind Daronka killer. Doesn't really offer much in this game, just an overall fun character to use every now and then if you've never actually played with him. Same goes for Lie. You know, a lot of these 1000-year characters that came out around this time are just lacking on the damage output, and that's really about it. You know, Lie has great strong attacks, but he can't inflict stat elements, and he also doesn't have a high damage output. Soifon is a really good character that's aged exceptionally well, especially thanks to her resurrection. And unironically, I kind of want to do the first few steps strictly for her, because when it comes to the merely Aaroniero guild quest, she is the best team booster for that week. She has a good damage output, and thanks to her resurrection, she's immune to freeze. Her SA2 does provide a team boost with the booster's skill, so a 43% attack, focus, and defense increase. And yeah, she's just really good for the immediate Aaroniero guild quest. Thanks to the special move trial quest, if you do pull her even once, you can unlock the focus slot, which makes it even better and more usable in that particular guild quest phase. Yuha is basically unusable. Nowhere are you ever going to use this character, unfortunately. He had his niche in the hard difficulty guild quest, but now is no longer usable in the very hard guild quest. Same goes for Ichigo. Used to be the team booster for his particular guild quest phase. Can't really get away with that in the very hard GQ. And damage output, strong attack range are very lacking compared to some of the newer characters. Visually, he doesn't even look that cool nowadays, in my opinion. Besides the sub, of course. Same goes for Rukia, right? Low damage output. Resurrection did make it better, but that's not really going to make you use it in a lot of different content, especially the harder content this game has to offer. And then Yashuru, it's just bad. It's just very bad. At the very least, though, again, some of these characters are very rare. They are very rarely ever featured in banners. More so Soifon down to Yachiru. Rukia is a good link in my opinion. Ichigo's a really good link for the heart attribute. Same goes for Soifon. Really good link for any heart net character. 40% normal attack damage, assuming you can stay at full stamina, is really good. So ultimately, it comes down to you if you really want to pull in this banner. I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're missing everyone in the banner and you're very new. But again, the two main headliners being Byakuya and NODT, you know, they themselves are basically mid-month characters, and they were only really worth summoning for when they first released due to the step-up format. With no good step-up format on this rerun banner, I just don't think it's worth it. The fillers, you know, yes, it's nice that some of these characters are very rarely ever featured, but you know, it's not like we're not getting a new 1000-year Blood banner every 2 weeks, right? Or a rerun every 2 weeks. End of month is likely going to be 1000-year Blood War. We're likely to get Ichibe's banner rerun next month, maybe even Ichigo, Yuha, and also Orihime. If anything, maybe that will happen in May. So it's not like we're not getting 1000-year Blood War on a regular basis, whether it's a new banner or a rerun. So all these characters here, if you don't have them, well, you're most likely going to get them later on, because it's not like you're going to have no opportunities to get them in the future. So yeah, I would say it's an easy skip. Byakuya and NODT are really cool characters. Visually, they look great. Some of the best visually looking characters in the game. As always, similar to when the banner first came out, only pull if you like the characters and you actually want to use them. But even then, on this banner, I don't know if I would. At the very least, though, wait to see what end of month is before you decide to summon. End of month will be getting announced on the 28th of this month. Hope you liked and enjoyed the video, though. See you guys next time. Let me know in the comments below if you are pulling. Take care and peace.